We hope that you have enjoyed the concurrent sessions and exhibition. Remember that at the end of each presentation, there will be a question and answer session. Send your comments and questions during the talk through the chat available in each room. Now, the British Council Mexico is proud to have Hala Ahmed with us today. Hala's session is called Climate Action in Language Education: Impactful Ways to Integrate Environmental Issues in English Language Teaching. Hala is based in Cairo and leads some British Council teacher professional development programs in Egypt. In more than 11 years with the British Council, Hala has been a teacher trainer, a teacher mentor, and an academic manager of several English programs, including national and regional projects to support refugees to access higher education, build the capacity of school teachers and teacher educators, develop and roll out the English for Interfaith Dialogue program, strengthening teacher networks and communities of practice in Middle East and North Africa. She has been a speaker several times in international conferences, such as in IATEFL, IMLE, CIAS, Nile TESOL, and TESOL Arabia. Aside from that, Hala enjoys practicing sports, going to the cinema, playing the guitar, and singing. Ladies and gentlemen, Hala Ahmed.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Hala Ahmed, and I'm from the British Council in Egypt. And I'm really happy to be with you today. It's my first time in the BBELT conference, and I'm really honored and pleased to talk to so many teachers across South America and different parts of the world today. So my plenary talk today is going to be about CALE, or Climate Action in Language Education. And Climate Action in Language Education, or CALE, is a part of a bigger program done by the British Council, and it's called the Climate Connection. The Climate Connection is the British Council's response really to the global crisis of climate change. And as some of you might know, the UK has hosted the 26th UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, last November. And the UK is dealing with the climate change as a top priority, really. And the British Council consequently has responded to this priority by developing this global program, the program that we call the Climate Connection. And interestingly, I told you I'm from Egypt and I live in Cairo. Interestingly, Egypt is hosting the next Conference of the Parties, or the next climate summit, COP27, in Egypt next November. So my talk today will be three parts. Part one is about a research that the British Council has done in climate action in language education, and I'll be sharing with you the key findings of this research. Part two is going to be about practical ideas of how to integrate climate change and climate issues into your classroom practices and your teaching. And part three, where I'll finish with some free resources from the British Council, which you can use in your English lessons. I'll I'll start with an overview of the British Council Climate Action Language Education research. And this research really was done by two of our consultants, Christopher Graham and Deepa Mirshandani. And they've done a very comprehensive piece of research, really. They did disc research, online surveys, and through these online surveys, they surveyed teachers, institutions, publishers, and teenage students, and they did also interviews. I'll share some of the key findings with you, but the report and the final report will be officially published this year. So first of all, let's have a look at the key results and the key findings from the survey we did with the teenage students. We surveyed around 2,500 students from the age group of 13 to 18 years. So these are like teenage students. And these are the key findings from the survey. I'd like to ask you to guess. Really, I'd like you to guess these two key findings from the research. Can you guess the percentage of the teenage students who wanted more climate change related activities and discussions in their schools? And I'd like you also to guess the percentage of the teenage students who wanted more climate change related topics in their English lessons. So give me a percentage. What's the percentage of the teenage students who wanted more climate change activities in their schools in general? And what is the percentage of the teenage students who wanted more climate change topics in English classes in particular? Right. So 76% of the students, teenage students, said they wanted more climate change activities in their schools in general. And 72% of the students wanted more climate change in their English lessons in particular. So these are like big numbers, and these numbers indicate that the teenage students want to know more and to learn more about climate change. Also, 42% of them, of those young people, said that they accessed information about climate change via the social media and online. And this is, to me, this is an alarming piece of information really, because you know that social media and some of the online channels can give you some untrue and unreliable information. Only 14% of them said that they receive information from school and the traditional media, like the print, TV, and radio. The traditional media, the print and TV and radio, made up 80% of their sources. So 14% of the information they get from school, and 28% they get from the traditional media like the print and TV and radio. So these two pieces of information really tell us something important here. It tells us that 42% of young people might get false information from unreliable resources online about climate change, and that the sources that we think might be credible or reliable only provide 14% of the information young students get. Now, let's move to the survey we did with the teachers. We surveyed around 1,887 teachers from around 196 countries. And the top countries that responded to the survey were India, UK, Turkey, Algeria, Sri Lanka, China, Indonesia, Ukraine, Spain, and Italy. These are like the top countries, but we had responses from almost every part of the world. So I want you now to guess the percentage of the teachers who took the survey and who believed that ELT teachers have a significant role to play in climate change education. It's 87% of English teachers believed that they play a significant role in climate change education. And also, it's worth mentioning that 80% of the teachers said they would like to take or to do some professional development courses or to take some professional development opportunities on how to incorporate climate change issues into their classes. So, again, what does this tell us? It tells us that teachers are very aware of their important role in climate change education, and 80% of them really want to develop themselves professionally, and they think they lack the training and they lack some professional development opportunities on this particular issue. What about the institutions? We surveyed 53 institutions from 16 countries. And what the survey results said is that 77% of them agreed or strongly agreed that the adjustment as a result of the impacts of COVID-19 had benefits to the environment, of course, because during the lockdown we stopped using public transport, we stopped using print, and we depended a lot on the online and the remote ways of working. So it seems that there is like a general agreement between the 53 institutions that COVID-19 has helped the environment a little bit to recover. Also, 79% already had a policy or planning to have a policy to reduce paper usage. 66% of them agreed or strongly agreed that climate change themes should be embedded across course books, not only for English course books, but in other subjects. They think it's an important thing to do. So after we did the survey with the teachers, the students, and the institutions, we think there are some key considerations to think about. First, climate change education is practical. It's not it's not preaching, it's not something theoretical, and it's not an opinion, it's a scientific fact. That's why climate change education should be practical. And I'll let you now read the quote from a school teacher from Uzbekistan on how practical activities are at the core of climate change education. So you see from the code, it's not just a theoretical lesson. The teacher got her third grade students to plant seeds and to grow their own plants because she raised their awareness about seed germination, and she explained how it's important to plant trees and flowers, and they did that. She gave them some beans and she wanted them to plant them at home. They did that, and they brought it back when it grew up, and afterwards they became more interested in that, and they bought really their own plants. Two, the second consideration we'd like to think about here is that climate change education is about change. There must be change. The process must be all about change. Again, let's look at the quote. Change could be even spreading the word, and change could be even raising awareness at the least. So students get engaged in these topics. This is a teacher educator from Mexico. She believed, or he believed, that students get engaged when the teacher presented topics about climate change, and the students become aware of the need to be environmentally friendly. And furthermore, they even told their families and their relatives about it. So that's the idea of causing a change, spreading the word, raising awareness. Three, climate change education needs a local impact. It's not something that comes from top down. It's not something that should only come from governments or international conferences. It should has it should have some local drive. It needs some local impact. So climate change education in English language education should have some type of impact above and beyond what happens in class. So it's not just the lesson about climate change you're doing. This, if you'd like to have some impact, if you'd like to see some change, take this issue beyond the class walls, possibly leading to behavioral change within communities. If we spread the word and if we take this issue outside the classroom walls, and if we develop it beyond a lesson, we can have some local communities, we can have some change within the local communities. Also, climate change education must engage young people, because it's something that happens now, but it will be really magnified in the future. And who's taking care of the future? Young people. So this is a project a teacher did with her teenage students in Moldova. And the Moldovan English Teachers is a very strong teacher association, and they created an online initiative. It's called the Eco Call, and through this initiative, they invited teenage students from around the world, under the guidance of their teachers, to prepare videos and presentations about a local environmental theme or a project that they're working on or that they're aware of. And they shared their projects via live Zoom sessions. This was very important in Moldovan context, because uh, there was no use of climate change topics in governmental ELT course books. So the teachers here, through this association and through this initiative, they had to step away from the ELT course books provided by the ministry, and they had to complement this by encouraging the students, under guidance of their teachers, to work on their own project. And of course, they here emphasized that there was strong parental support. Climate change education must be as accessible as possible. It must be open for everybody. It's not exclusive for a particular group in the community or in the society. It has to be spread, and the awareness has to be spread for everybody. And I'd like to share with you here an example of a MOOC developed and run by the University of Pennsylvania in the USA. And the MOOC, as you know, which stands for Massive Open Online Courses, entitled English for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, which is English for STEM. It is primarily designed to improve students' level of scientific English, but to support and with a strong focus on climate change and climate education. And the course opens, or it's run every two weeks, I think. And I'll be sharing the PowerPoint presentation with you later through the conference platform, and you can find links really to the course, which is open today. The course is open today, 18th of February, and till now around 158,000 teachers are enrolled in this course. Now I'm moving to the second part of my presentation, and it's about practical ideas for you guys to integrate climate content into the ELT classrooms. We'll be looking at two points here. Why should we as teachers, why should we as English teachers uh, integrate climate change issues into our English classes, and how can we do that? Why should we? First of all, because it's a crisis. Okay, so that's known now to everybody. The planet, we have only one planet. We don't have an extra backup planet. It's just a planet, and we need to reserve it. Two, because climate change education is critical. When we have crises, when we have global problems, education must be looked at, must be considered as a tool to encourage people to tackle this issue. And you can see now that climate action represents really goal number 13 in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And it clearly says to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. And the target is to improve education, to raise awareness and the human and institutional capacity on climate change, to improve the capacity of mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and early warning. So it's a crisis, a global crisis. Climate education is really key to address this issue, and it's one of the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. But you might come and argue and say, well, I'm just an English teacher. I'm not an environmentalist, or I'm not an environment expert or something. So, working on climate action or climate issues is not really a part of my job, which is not really true, because we'd like you to play your role as a teacher and as an English teacher in preparing your learners for the future. Because again, it's happening now, but it can be accelerated. This issue can be accelerated and magnified in the future. And who's taking care of the future? It's the learners who are sitting in your classroom today. So it's important for you to play your role as a teacher, an educator, and to prepare your learners for the future. And this is what teachers actually do. So how can we do it? Now we looked at why we should do it, why we should integrate climate action into our English lessons. Now we're looking at how can we do it. Tip number 1 is to raise your awareness along with your students. And I'd like to recommend this website for you and for your learners. We're all new to this. I come from Egypt, and the issue is still new as well. So we're all new to climate action, and we're all new to climate education. So there is no problem if we start together to learn more about this issue. I'd like to recommend this website for you. It's earthday.org. And on this website, you'll find news, initiatives, raising awareness campaigns on climate and environmental literacy. So it's so good for you and for your learners to go online and read about the main concepts, the key news, and the key highlights from around the world. 2 is to personalize the course book and create your own lessons. What do I mean by personalizing the course book? Here is an example for you. So a teacher was teaching her students about climate change, and the course book was talking about polar bear problems. So imagine you're in Mexico, for example, or in a country in South America in general, and you'd like to raise your students' awareness and have a lesson about climate change and climate issues. Would they listen to you if you talk to them about polar bear problems? I don't think so, because simply there are no polar bear problems in South America. There are no polar bear at all in Egypt, for example. So it's more personalized, it's more relevant if you can change this and make it make it speak more to their local context by asking them to talk about or have a lesson about a shortage of water, for example. And if your community is working on farming, for example, it's more beneficial for the students to learn more about drought and chemicals and intensive farming and pollution, littering, and all of that, rather than learning more about polar bears. I mean, it's useful to know about polar bears and polar bears a problem, but it's more relevant, more contextualized, more beneficial if we can if we can link climate change to the local context problems. So my top tip here is to talk about their green issues, not yours or not the things you admire. And besides personalizing the existing materials and your course book, also feel free to complement the course book by free resources, and this could be ELT materials or even non-ELT materials or authentic materials about climate change. Next top tip is about embedding sustainability throughout your teaching. Integrate environmental issues into your teaching wherever you can. It's like putting on your environmental glasses and start to look at your existing curriculum, your existing course book, your existing content through in an environmental lens. Try to find opportunities as you go through the curriculum to integrate environmental issues wherever you can, whenever you can. Next top tip is to go outside and teach outdoors. Take them to the schoolyard, take them to the school background and show them the sky. Show them the sky on a rainy day. Show them how the sky can change because of pollution. Show them the trees and show them the color of the tree leaves, and talk to them about the importance of planting trees and planting and growing seeds in general. Do green projects with your students. Get them to work together and with you on their little green projects. And actually, the British Council has done an international school video competition where we asked the schools around the world to video record short video clips to talk about their little small green projects, environmental projects, but very relevant to their local context. And we had 10 winners really from different parts of the world. One example I can remember was a school competition or a school video from a school in Nigeria where they used plastic bottles to build waste bins. So, and they called their project from waste to waste bins. So from waste, that is plastic bottles, to waste bins, where they use the plastic bottles to build waste bins so that they can do some recycles and save the environment. Very little, very small, but with great impact. It raised the students' awareness. The students will talk to their families and relatives about climate issues. They will grow up with the idea in their mind that they have social responsibility to save the planet and to preserve the environment. Next two top tips come together really because they are quite connected. Is to join a community of practice. Don't be alone. Don't be on your island. Stay on your island alone. Join the party and find a community of practice, or even start your own. A community of practice is a group of teachers or educators who share the same interest with you, and where you can learn together, share your concerns, share your interests, share your resources, try ideas together. And this is one way where you can continue your own professional development and to know more. uh, what are examples of the communities of practice? ELT footprint, that's a Facebook group, and they are all interested in integrating climate and environmental issues in ELT. Or the IATFL special interest group, the global issues, you can sign up for this group and join them. Or blogs about integrating climate and climate emergency for the ELT industry. Or teacher associations like Max TESOL, one of the teacher associations in the world, and especially in Mexico. So join one of these communities, meet people who have the same interest, talk to them, learn from them, or even transfer your experience and skills and your knowledge to them. So to summarize, my top tips for you guys is that to raise your awareness and your students' awareness, personalize the course book. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it as it is. Think about your local context and try to relate to your local context as much as you can. Don't stop at don't stop at the course book, and try to complement the course book by using free resources. These free resources could be ELT materials written specifically for ELT, or non-ELT materials like authentic materials from the news, from YouTube, movies, stories. Embed sustainability issues and environmental issues throughout your teaching. Just look for opportunities and look at your curriculum with an environmental lens, and put on your environmental thinking hat. 5, go outside, teach outdoors, and get closer to the environment and nature. 6, encourage students and your fellow teachers to do green projects together. Celebrate your projects even if they involve small ideas. 7, join a community of practice. Don't stay alone on your island. Don't stay isolated. 8, when you join other people, it's a good space for you to develop and grow and continue your professional development. My next part of the presentation is about the British Council resources that you can use into your English lessons. And I come here to you today with 2 useful, fantastic free resources from the British Council. One is the podcast series, and it's like 10 podcasts covering a wide range of environmental issues, interviewing people from different parts of the world. And I'd like to invite you now to listen to this uh, short trailer about the podcast and what the podcast series entail.
The Climate Connection.
I think it's Nelson Mandela who said education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
La conexión climática.
There's a large group of people who are often left out of the climate conversation. There's so much that we can be learning from indigenous communities around the world, for example, who, despite contributing the least to climate change, are facing some of the worst effects.
We ran a project called BYOP, Bring Your Own Plant. Unbelievable results. We were getting, ADHD cut by 3/4. Turns out it wasn't the kid that had the attention deficit. It was the environment was deficiting their attention,
The Climate Connection. Climate action in language education. A new 10-part podcast series from the British Council. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
The Climate Connection.
A Across this 10-part series, I'll be talking to a wide range of people and organisations.
And we had a classroom in Beijing in China. When we were talking about the weather and weather patterns, the children in Beijing saw the image of the clouds and they associated that with smog.
I always try to remain optimistic about the future, even if our current governmental leaders aren't taking the climate crisis seriously, that the next generation of leaders absolutely will.
Alongside these interviews, we'll be hearing directly from practitioners in the field.
As a teacher, I'm aware of the climate change and the necessity to embed this topic in our lesson plans.
We'll also be looking into climate-related language.
I'm going to start with talking about climate emergency, which at Oxford Languages we chose as our word of the year. Other words in our shortlist for word of the year were eco-anxiety, ecocide, flight shame, and climate denial.
The Climate Connection. Climate action in language education.
The Climate Connection.
La conexión climática.
Subscribe now, wherever you get your podcasts.
So you can see now, it's interesting, attractive, interviewing people from different countries with different backgrounds. It's interviewing practitioners, so you will hear from people from the field. It's real, it's authentic, it's about what people are doing in their daily lives on the ground to tackle climate connections. What also I really like about podcasts, this series of podcasts, is that it comes with show notes. So you have the audio file, a podcast where you can listen to fantastic content, listen to people being interviewed from different parts of the world. But also you'll have some notes to look at, and the notes will give you a script of the podcast, as well as some like a glossary of the key concepts and key vocabulary, so you can use all of this easily in your classroom with your students. And again, there are 10 episodes of this series, covering different topics of climate change, capturing stories from different parts of the world. The podcast series is really popular, and it has been downloaded in 141 different countries from around the world. And in Mexico only, it has been downloaded 187 times. So that's a very interesting piece of information to know. The other resource I'd like to introduce you to is a bank of lesson plans. So the British Council has developed 12 lesson plans covering a range of levels and a range of age groups. And each lesson plan explores a different topic, from sports to storms and from families to fashion, but they are all designed with flexibility in mind, so they can be integrated with your existing curricula, and they are available in 2 versions: one for the classroom-based lessons like the face-to-face teaching, and one version for online teaching, and it's all about climate and climate issues. I hope you can have access to the presentation later, so you can access the links where you can find the lesson plans and the podcasts. So that's the end of my presentation today. Thanks very much. And you can see my email address on the screen and my Twitter. So feel free to reach out to ask questions, or if you're interested to know more about the British Council Climate Action in Language Education program. Thank you very much. And it's time for questions now, I think.
It is, Hala. Thank you very much for this great presentation. We have lots of comments, mainly on how creative teachers need to be to include this topic in their lessons, since young children, young students and teenagers
Okay, let me check the comments and see
Yeah,
if we
they're
have any
very aware.
questions. Thank you, Colm. Colm is my colleague from the British Council. He's based in Indonesia, Colm Downs, but also he's the technical lead of the climate action in language education, and that's a program specifically for English teachers to incorporate climate change issues into their English classes. So thank you very much, Colm, for being around and for sharing the links for the audience today to download resources. This is a question from Elizabeth Jane Thacker. Are there listening activities to go with them, true and false, gap fills, etc.? Yes, Elizabeth, you just need to check the for the lesson plans. There are activities as you normally do, but for the podcast there is a transcript and glossary, so you can take the podcast, take the transcript, and design your own activities in the classroom. It's quite flexible, really, and great content.
There is a very interesting comment by Eloise Vivanco.
Yes, and Colm really is sharing links for you guys to download the podcast and the lesson plans as well. So please check out the comments and check out Colm Downs links. Another question from Elizabeth, but I think Colm already answered this. How long is each episode? It's 30 to 40 minutes. That was answered already. Please share the PowerPoint. Yes, of course, my pleasure. I'll share it through the conference platform. How can we get the PowerPoint? I'll make sure you get it. Now that we have classes at school, students feel kind of out of place since they got used to being at home because of the pandemic. Yeah, that's very true. But the return to the school is gradual, really, and as far as I'm concerned today, I'm talking about climate action today. The lesson plans and the materials are quite flexible. They are designed with flexibility in mind, so you can easily switch between the online and the face-to-face mode using the same material, with some, of course, through doing some tweaks and some changes. Another comment from Perazza: we may not have polar bears in our countries, but our actions all around the world impact them. That's very true. That's very true. We should also relate our local problems to environmental problems around the world. That's a very interesting point. Thank you for raising it up. So while you're relating to your local context and you're tackling and raising awareness about the local climate problems you have in your country, it's also to make it very clear to the students that local problems also contribute to global problems. So a problem that happens in Egypt or Tunisia or in Mexico might also affect the polar bears who live in other cold countries. That's a very important point. I think these activities can enhance our students' awareness of the climate change. Yes, raising awareness is really key here, and it causes a lot of impact, really. Here in Cuba, we are developing a lot of strategies about this topic, mainly since the Ministry of Education. That's a comment from Osmil Vargas. Thank you. How can we get the video? All of the videos are in the on the British Council Teaching English website. And if Colm is still around, because I don't have access to the comments, I can't type in a comment. But if Colm is around, he can put in the link for the playlist of the school video competition, and a link for the trailer of the podcast, and the link for the podcasts themselves. I'm
We
sorry to
have-
hear this, Maria Angelica Yanis. Now we are having a fire in a province. It's so sad to see the animals dying. That's very sad. People leaving their places because they have to save their lives. There is no rain there and they cannot stop the fire. Young generations are more concerned with the environment. So this is a live example of how climate change is no joke. It's real, it's important, it's critical. We need to take actions now, and people take actions in according to their roles. You can take action as a school leader or an educator or even a teacher. So everybody must play their role. Thanks, Wilbert. He's saying this is great presentation. It's a so important topic, of course. Let me check new comments here. Do we have other questions?
Can you
Maria
hear me? Hala?
also is saying, Maria de la Caridad, I hope I'm saying your name right, Maria. Myra, sorry, Myra. I consider this is a very important topic for pedagogical school teachers in Cuba. We need to learn how to include topics having to do with environmental issues and how to solve those issues. Absolutely. Absolutely, of course. I'm trying to catch up with the comments and in the box. I'd like to know, what would you advise when it comes to a teens class who don't seem to be very interested, worried about the topic, and also can't leave the class for outdoor activities? That's a very interesting question, Anna Flavia. That's a very interesting question, because we know that dealing with teens, it could be the most problematic or most difficult. And I think this goes back to my point about there's links back to my top tip about personalizing the content and trying to link the content to your students' real lives. So if teenagers aren't interested in a specific topic, try to find a topic which is really linked to the real lives. I know Maria is the moderator, but I can't see Maria on the screen and I can't hear her. I don't know, it's something wrong with my connection or what, but I know Maria should be there for questions, but I can't see Maria on video, or I can't hear her. So I hope I'm helping here. Maria,
Yeah.
can you hear me? I can't hear you, or I can't
you.
see you.
I can hear you. We have a question that I have typed. No, we lost your audio.
Maybe if I switched off my video, I can hear and see Maria.
We have a question of someone who would like to know what...
Yeah, I'm sure she can hear me, but I can't hear her and I can't see her. Maybe we can just continue. I mean, if the teachers can hear me,
they can.
Yeah, Roberto, thank you, Roberto, for notifying me. The host would like to talk to you. I can't hear her, unfortunately, and I can't see her on video. Maria is typing. No worries, the audience can hear you. Okay, cool. So Thanks, Claudia. I'm glad that you liked it. Okay, so if the teachers can hear me, we can just continue interacting with them, me through the microphone and them through the chat box, if this is okay, because for some reason I lost Maria. I can't see her even. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and please follow Graham's advice. Pin the question you want to ask. I want to thank to all of you for this opportunity. Thanks, Osmel. I'm glad you found it useful. Okay, Maria is having a question now. I'd like to know, what would you advise when it comes to teens? I think I addressed this question already, Maria, because I already said that teens could be problematic and difficult to deal with. If they lose interest in what you're saying, try to link what you're saying, try to find a topic that is relevant to their daily lives, problems, issues they're facing. I don't want to use the same example one of the teachers today gave, but the fire, for example, that is affecting parts of the country, that might be an issue, that might be an interesting topic, and interesting in a specific way, of course, could be a topic for your class to discuss. So try to link the content to their needs and to their interest, and meet them where they are. We always say like this: meet the students where they are. Try to speak their language. Try to think the way they think. This is how you attract their attention, and this is how you raise their interest. Yeah, exactly. Maida Ramos also agrees that students get more involved when you connect real life and content. Exactly. They feel they are learning things useful and meaningful. Yes, exactly. We still have 8 minutes, so please keep sending in your questions, and yeah, and keep sharing your opinions and your thoughts. Here is another important or maybe interesting suggestion from Elizabeth Luna. Through projects, we should encourage our students to make activities to solve their neighborhood problems. So it's as relevant as neighborhood problems. It's as specific as neighborhood problems. But also, again, I'd like to go back to one of the important points raised by one of the audience today, is that make sure that you, at some point, somehow, you link the local problems with the global effect, and how climate change is affecting everybody and affecting animals globally. So it's going from local to global, and both levels are not in isolation from each other. It's local because this is where we live, but also it adds up to the global crisis. Right, we have another question here from Ali Alfaro. How to raise awareness of this topic to not only students but also the learning community. Try to involve parents. I mean, if you do have parents meetings at school or parents assembly, try to invite them and try to assign a part of the meeting around global issues, including climate change and environment. And again, as I mentioned in the presentation, try to spread the word, and never underestimate raising somebody's awareness. If people are aware of the problem, half of the problem is solved. The real problem is really when people aren't aware it exists, and when people are in denial that the problem exists. So try to invite parents, try to encourage learners to talk to their families at home about the topic. One of the activities, even one of the home assignments you can ask them to do, is to ask the learners to interview an adult at home about climate issues. Ask them, give them a set of questions, or even ask them to design their own questions, and ask them to go home and interview their parents or their elder siblings about climate actions, and they can come back with the interview recorded on their mobile phones, or they can work together on a poster, like a family project. They can work together on designing a poster of their top tips, like Hala's family's top tips to save the environment, or Hala's family's top tips to clean streets, or to help the trees. It's something like that. Then they come to the class and they present it, and you can always celebrate their work, even if their work is small. You can always celebrate this, having a class gallery, for example. You can hang their posters, or you can hang their interview questions on the wall and celebrate this. What about adult students? What would you suggest to address these topics with them? Again, be mindful of the topics that adults might be interested more than children, and they take it from there. So specify the topics, specify the themes that would interest adults more than other age groups, and start to build the lessons on it. And adults always like to know the purpose of what they're doing, so give them ownership and give them responsibility of what they're doing. When you ask them to do projects, give them roles and give them responsibility, and hold them responsible for the project, and make it very clear to them the objective of what you're doing, and the purpose and the benefit of what you're doing. Yeah, so adults like to take leadership. They like to question the value of what they're doing, and also adults like to be given choices. So give them the choice, give them a list of topics, or ask them even for the topics they'd like to do in as a project. What had inspired you to be an educator? Wow, that's a very big question. What inspired me to be an educator? I think I was actually talking about this to some friends last night. I think the most important thing humans can do in life is to educate others, is to make others aware, make others educated, make knowledge available for them, show them the way, make the unknown known. People cannot just educate themselves by themselves. Somebody has to do this job. Somebody has to tell them about knowledge, not to feed them with knowledge, but to tell them that knowledge exists, and knowledge is cool, and knowledge is power. Go and do it. Go and read. Go and learn. So I think education and working as an educator could be the most important thing somebody can do in their life. If you want to save this planet, educate people. If you want to solve a health problem, educate people. If you want to overcome poverty, educate people. If you want to achieve equality, educate people. If you want to eliminate extremism, if you want to eliminate terrorism, if you want to eliminate violence, educate people. So education could be the key, could be the answer really to many problems. I think we ran out of time. Thanks everybody for joining me today, and thanks Maria, Graham, and Colm, my colleagues who are around to support, answer questions, interact with the audience through the chat box. Thank you very, very much. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Adriana. Thanks, everybody, for joining, and thanks for being so responsive and so active. Thank you very much. Greetings from Cairo, Egypt. It's 9 p.m. here in Egypt, so I wish you a nice afternoon or nice evening. It depends on where you are in the world. Thank you very much, and see you again in a different conference. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Hala. On behalf of the British Council, please accept our deepest appreciation for your talk. Thank you very much. Please join me again in thanking Hala Ahmed by giving her a big round of virtual applause. Now, we will begin the first block of poster sessions. Please enter the concurrent sessions section where the creators will explain the meaning of their posters. Later, you will be able to visit the poster exhibition, which will remain in the exhibition posters section. Just after the poster sessions, we will have a break for you to have your lunch. Or, if you prefer, you can also take advantage of the opportunity to meet new contacts and widen your professional network. Click on the networking button, which can be found on the left-hand side of your screen, or join the networking rooms found at the top of the concurrent sessions and exhibition posters area. In the exhibitions area, you will also find all the virtual stands with the best academic material available. Please enjoy your time. Please make your way to your respective rooms and see you in this room at 2:30 p.m. Mexico Central Time for our next plenary. Thank you.